Hey, this is Jason Morris with Real Estate Agents That Really Work, and I'm on the phone today with Andrew Scherer. I tell you what, Andrew, I'll let you tell a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Jason, and thank you for taking the time with me. So my main business is as a lender. So just partnering with referral agents like yourself, like other realtors, divorce attorneys, family law attorneys. So that's the business side of things. I do run a coaching business as well, where I do coach other real estate agents. I'm actually coaching a couple other insurance agents as well, and expanding that business. Just outside of Philadelphia, I have three great kids: a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and an 8-month-old, and a wife of 10 years as well. And just living life and loving it.
That's awesome, man. We actually, me and my girlfriend, we were in Philadelphia a couple of months ago, and it's one of my favorite places I've been to. We went downtown, we've seen a lot of stuff, man. It was really, really cool. So man, coaching other agents. So what are you seeing what are you seeing agents are having problems with now? What are you seeing their biggest challenges are?
Honestly, and this may sound rough, but getting out of their own way. I think just self-awareness in general.
I thought for a second there you're going to say getting out of the bed.
That too. I mean, it's the basics. Getting back to the basics of this is what I have to do to reach this level of success, and that means that I'm not able to go on Facebook during lead generation. It really does get back to the basics of how am I generating business, and each agent has a very, very unique approach, which I love. It's just understanding where the strengths and weaknesses are, and then just play to the strengths.
I've seen that with a lot of agents that call me. A lot of them, man, they have this mindset a lot of them have the mindset that they just don't deserve to be successful, or they don't, for whatever reason, in their mind, they feel like they can't be a big producing agent in their market or a superstar. I mean, what do you do? What do you do when they're in that situation or they're in that mindset?
I think it's understanding why. So just asking, questions to dig down a little bit deeper. And, this sounds cliche, but it may go further back than just, the superficial past couple months or past job or whatever else. It may actually be their upbringing. So the way that I coach, it takes into consideration 9 different factors, but we go all the way back. It's almost in one of my coaching clients considers it almost like a therapy session, but I mean, we go really, really deep, and those times and those conversations do go all the way back. I mean, almost to childhood and how they were brought up, because those experiences are basically shaping their culture, it's shaping their mindset, and it takes a lot to break away from that sometimes. You're fortunate if you find the person that was brought up in the successful mindset where the parents are just encouraging every step of the way and encouraging them to challenge themselves and push to the next level. That's the person, obviously. If they're in a little bit of a funk, it's much, much easier to get them out of that than the person that's just been ingrained with them that, hey, I'm just not able to be successful.
Yeah, I've seen that with a lot of agents. I mean, I guess growing up, they were conditioned. I mean, I was fortunate. My dad, growing up, my dad was a contractor, and I went all over the Southeast with him, and they live on a lot of property, so he farmed for a while and had all kind of stuff. My mom owned a cleaning business when I was growing up, where she cleaned new construction. So, I mean, growing up, like nobody in my house and nobody in my family really had a job. Everybody had some sort of entrepreneurial pursuit or business or something they operated on their own. So for me, I never really thought much about like, hey, I got to go find a job when I finish college.
Absolutely.
I just went to college because I didn't want to go work with my dad, That was the biggest thing. My dad, if somebody had to dig a ditch that day, that was my job, That's why I went to college, so I could quit doing that. So what about though? I see a lot of agents that maybe they might have the mindset that, hey, I can go out and do bigger, better things. I can grow. They have the mindset of abundance, but then their spouse doesn't. I had an agent message me the other day and told me that they were in a situation where they didn't really have a good home life. I mean, what should they do about that?
Yeah, so Jason, I have to be honest with you, man. That was me. My gosh, I would say 6 years ago. So I'm 33 now, and at 27, that was me. And my wife and I worked through a lot. I mean, we go through goal setting sessions at this point, but it was a slow and steady process. So it was me truly leading that relationship with very, very open conversation, and the blinders were on with my wife, with Jen, with regard to what the possibilities actually were. And it was because for her mindset and her culture, how she was brought up, it was just that way. We couldn't have X, Y, and Z. We couldn't live this way. We couldn't take that vacation. We can't think 5 to 10 years down the road. So all of that limiting mindset, it was a lot to work through. And the only thing I would tell agents and what worked, or people in general, worked best for me was just being patient and asking questions and walking through and understanding why, and try to avoid that judgmental, well, this is what I want to do, this is what we can do, and just back your personality off and try to step into their shoes and lead through that relationship. That leadership in that relationship is what is just going to make it flourish, blossom, and explode at the end of the day. I mean, 7 years of working on this, my wife and I talk openly about our finances. We talk openly about what our 1 year vision is, what our 3 year vision is, what our vision for our kids are. She runs her own business as a transaction coordinator and listing coordinator for real estate agents as a VA. And we talk about her business growth and what her mindset is. And man, I'll tell you, you hit that breakthrough point just because of that steady leadership and that consistent support for your spouse, and just bringing them along, and it is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think that I've seen agents especially making calls. They go do it like a week or two. They start making calls. They do it a week or so. They don't really get anything from it. It sucks because they're getting beat up on the phone, and it's mentally tough. And then they go home and then their wife or husband kind of beats them up over it too, and it's a tough situation for them to get over. They don't understand. Their spouse just quit a job with a steady paycheck to go to full time into real estate, where some months are fantastic and some months suck. So
absolutely. And I think
so. With goal setting,
I think absolutely. So I think the biggest focus for that person should be on the big picture. So if you think about everything that you have going on in your life with regard to, faith and spirituality, family, health, financial, business, lifestyle, personal, your personal goals, your mindset, and your education goals, everything that you're looking at for a holistic life, a fully lived life, I mean, what is that big goal? What is that vision? If you keep your eyes on that end vision, that it basically acts as a GPS. It doesn't matter what traffic comes up. It doesn't matter what construction's going on. You might have to take a right here, a left there, but you're going to still end up in that end destination. And once you clarify what that destination is, the universe will just move out of the gosh darn way.
Yeah. I had a real estate coach one time that he used to have a saying. He said, keep your eyes on the compass, not on the clock.
Yep.
And he used to say that all the time, and I thought that was really interesting. And I've been in that situation before too, like you said. I mean, it's just it's a tough place to be. You know what I mean? And
yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately, not there now. But man, so I know that a lot of this stuff that these agents have, a lot of their problem is fear. What should they be doing to overcome that fear?
I think just learn about it. I mean, there's again, that goes back to that self-awareness. A lot of the times it's either fear of success or fear of failure, or both for that matter. So just understanding where that fear is coming from, again, getting more self-aware and understanding that, there's really no problem too big that they can't solve without help. Or with help, I should say. So, what is that fear? What is the baseline of the fear? Where's the genesis of it? And attack it from there. If it's a fear of success, understand why. Is it because you don't want the lifestyle, or you don't want to lose the lifestyle that you currently have, or you think you're going to get too busy, or fear of failure where you just don't like the rejection? And then at that point, it's like, okay, well, what's more important, your family and what your end goal is, or getting rejected on the phone, or getting rejected at the door and telling you to go screw off?
Yeah, basically figuring out what your greatest fear is. Is it the fear of losing what you have, or is it the fear of not gaining something, basically?
Absolutely. Yeah, just, again, getting back to that self-awareness.
So once the guy that's brand new, he's motivated, he's got a good mindset, what skill sets should he be focusing on to build a base for his business?
I think it's the mindset of the dialogues and the scripts. So everyone would sit there and say, use a script, use a dialogue, it's proven, whatever. I'm a huge proponent for learning scripts when you're first in the business, but I think that the reason why you should is completely different from what other people think. So other people will say, read it for word and personalize it. But I think it's just a mindset. The mindset of being aware of what else is going on. So you're actually, as you're doing these scripts, as you're doing the dialogues, as you're role-playing, it's getting into the mindset. It's helping you be more aware, and you're actually training your brain to look for other real estate opportunities, or other opportunities for sales, or other networking opportunities. So if you're just doing these scripts and working on these dialogues, you can be out at the soccer field watching your kids play soccer, and your brain is going to pick up on that side conversation if you're working on this stuff and if you're aware of it. It's similar to that reticular activator theory as well.
I agree with that. I talk to a lot of agents, and I think the problem a lot of them have with scripts is, sometimes the seller just don't follow your script, the buyer don't follow your script. And then that throws you off when you're trying to go word for word. So what skill set do you think that agents should be focusing on in 2017? To have an established agent, I'm out here, I got a good mindset. I've got my scripts and dialogues down. Say an agent doing, say, $2 to $5 million a year. What skill set should they be looking at right now or working on building?
I think the biggest skill set that an established agent should be looking at is how to level up, how to upgrade. And typically, you look at the law of the lid, and you're capped at your own individual potential. So the biggest skill set at that point is, okay, cool. So how do I find the next person? How do I find that next key hire, that next cornerstone person, that talent to just completely launch where I am right now into a whole nother level? That skill set in and of itself is worth millions.
Who do you think that for the average agent out there looking to do that, so they maxed out by themselves, what should be their first hire, you think?
An assistant, hands down.
An assistant?
Like full-time assistant, take the gosh darn emails away, take the phone, take the incoming calls away and just manage. Manage your calendar, holds you accountable, especially if they're a go-getter, and I'll take myself, for example. I am horrible with managing my calendar, and I am horrible with returning voicemails. I know that I am. But if I have somebody holding me accountable to that, it's game on.
So how do you do that? Like for me, I would almost rather give you my wallet than give you my cell phone. Hold my wallet rather than hold my cell phone, because dude, I'm glued to it. I either have somebody texting me or messaging me through Facebook, or I have a call coming in or email coming in. How do you, and I mean, this is a problem I struggle with myself. How do you hand those things off to somebody else?
It's definitely a difficult one, and I'm in the stage of building my own business right now too, so I'm actually coaching myself through this. But it's again getting back to the bigger picture. So is my time better spent replying to a Facebook message, an email, a voicemail that may not be that pertinent? Taking in a brand new application that may be dead wood, or is my time better spent prospecting for business and spending more time in the green zone, in the green time? What is my time best spent for my family, for my organization, and for my legacy?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So you're just prioritizing your activities you're doing, and the ones that don't meet a certain level or help you reach your goals, you're handing them to the hourly person to do basically all the busy work, all the busy phone calls.
Exactly, and it's very similar to the mindset of why am I going to go home and mow my yard when I can pay the next door neighbor kid $20?
Yeah.
That $20, and it takes me an hour and 40 minutes to mow and trim my yard, where I can spend $20 and that's basically $10 an hour, where I can either spend that time with my family or I can go make $200 an hour doing what I do best.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's probably like I told you before the call started, I spent over an hour this morning trying to explain an amortization schedule to a client that that still, I'm sure, had no clue what I was talking about. I could look at her and tell she did not understand, and she just kept asking questions, but she didn't want to understand either. It's sometimes you get some stupid questions and some awkward situations, but man, so in 2007, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say too, a lot of agents, and I just want to expand on the assistant thing too, especially on the agent side. A lot of agents have that, and I'll use the cliche KW term, that limiting belief that an assistant is going to cost way too much money, or whatever that belief is for them. Man, a virtual assistant, just to handle transactions, think about how much time is spent on a transaction versus how much time you can gain back for getting back into the green zone. And, if you VA this, I mean, and I don't mean to plug my Outdesk or any other VA for that matter. Again, my wife runs her business, but, spending $300 to $600 per transaction, and that can actually be an additional fee on top of your commission, is a no-brainer, and you gain all of that time back, and it's 100% taken care of for you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So with assistants and with doing these people, what would you recommend? And tell me why. Like, I've always felt like I'd hire an assistant. I always felt like I needed them sitting right there in the office beside me. That way I could look at them working. I guess I don't know what my mindset is, but I've never hired a virtual assistant really. I've outsourced like certain tasks on, Upwork and,
Sure.
Fiverr and stuff like that I just didn't want to do or couldn't do. But what is the advantage of hiring a virtual assistant over a regular assistant or an in-office assistant?
Yeah, I think it's just straight up overhead. If you can get somebody to come into the office and work for $300 to $600 per closed transaction, fantastic. The likelihood of that happening and you find a cornerstone hire is slim to none. Those people that are your cornerstone hires, they want that stability, they want that salary, and they want those growth opportunities. The people who you're hiring on the VA side are working for multiple people, but you're limiting that overhead, and you only have overhead really when you close a transaction. There is no loss there if the transaction falls through, and if there is a loss, it's nominal. So just giving that away, and I think that the biggest hurdle, if you will, for an agent to go from, hey, I'm doing everything myself, to, hey, I'm going to hire a transaction coordinator in order to handle that and actually have that first stage of leverage, is just developing the systems. And you show me an agent who wants to develop systems, and I'll show you an agent who's probably not out there lead generating.
Do you, well, one problem I've had with assistants in the past is I'd hire them And, they'd see commission checks I was making. They'd see how much I'm making versus how much I'm paying them to sit there in the office. And next thing you know, they're talking about getting their real estate license, or they're talking about, about leaving. Or once you get them trained and they're doing really good, you're paying them $10 an hour. Next thing you know, they're leaving and going to work for another agent for 12 or $13 an hour,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. And I've run into that. But with the virtual assistant, you don't really have that problem.
You don't have that problem with that one. And I mean, Jason, I think it really does come back to what your intent is. I mean, I'm a firm believer that if you're able to provide enough value for that person, I mean, if you have an assistant who comes in and they're looking to move up, if you don't gain that clarity from the get-go, you've lost them anyway.
Yeah.
So no matter what you do, they're going to be gone at some point in time. So in order to keep them, basically you're providing value throughout the entire relationship. As long as you can maintain providing that much more value for them, they'll never leave you.
Yeah, that does actually make sense. Man, so 2017, we're right here at the end of the year where we literally got right at 60 days left. What do you feel like agents should be doing this last 60 days of the year? What should they be doing right now to prepare for 2017?
Stop listening to everything else that's out there. If you look at the news, we have the gosh darn elections going on right now. I think my Facebook feed is, except for last night with the Cubbies winning the World Series, I mean, it's been nonstop just elections and negativity. And, if you listen to some of these, proverbial and self-proclaimed real estate gurus, the market is going to flip. And pardon my frankness, but I call bullshit. So 2017, I think, is the year of focus. It's get really, really clear on what your vision is. Completely understand that you are in control. You have complete control over what you do in your market. Just because, outside markets or whoever else is putting the thoughts out there that the market is flipping, that's bullcrap. Do what you got to do and refocus.
I don't see that happening in my market. I mean, we're still, like the fundamental things, like looking at the market, man, it's still cheaper to buy than it is to rent right now. Rental rates are going crazy. And, rentals are not sitting on the market. If it's clean and it's, priced within a reasonable range, man, it's renting out today. I got a friend of mine that does property management, and he told me, he goes, I'm putting ads on Craigslist and having to take them down, within a couple hours because I can't follow up and handle the calls I'm getting from Craigslist. And that's all for rentals. And I think that's like a solid sign, especially when you see a house renting for, $1,100-$1,200 a month, and you can go buy that same house for $900 a month,
Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, I think that's like an excellent sign that we're, now once that flips and, you're buying that house and it's $1,200 a month payment, but, you can only rent it for $900 a month, I think we need to watch out. things are coming.
Even in those stages, as you know, I mean, you've been doing this long enough, that's your gold mine. I mean, you're building your database based on that because it's going to flip at some point.
Oh, you're right.
So every single renter would be sitting there getting a phone call and, hey, listen, I know that you're renting right now. What are your plans for when you can actually afford to purchase?
Yeah.
I mean, and then obviously talking with the rental owners, because, I mean, if they're looking to expand their portfolio, especially with the number of renters that's going to be out there, that's a killer market for somebody as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, Grant Cardone keeps talking about market rate rentals are basically low-end rentals being recession-proof. And the more I hear him talk about that, the more I go, man, that is such common sense. I mean, there's always going to be people looking for, well, in my market, the low end is, $600-$700 a month. I know in some markets, the low end is, $1,500 a month. But
right.
There's always people looking for that $500, $600, $700 a month rental here. And right now, that rental doesn't exist. I mean, it's gone right now. If you do find something in that price range, you're not going to want to walk across the carpet barefooted. But so do you think this election will play any role in the real estate market going up, going down, just continuing to move along like it is now, move sideways?
It's gonna be pretty gosh darn interesting. I'll tell you that much. So, there's a lot of people that have just completely pulled out of the market, as like stock market wise as well, just for the anticipation of something just going haywire. I mean, Fed has already said, obviously, that they're looking to increase the rates relatively soon. I think that they're serious this time around, unless this election just completely flips the market on its end, which I think it has a great potential to do. Either way you look at it, both candidates can have a huge swing on the market, and it should be really, really interesting. I can tell you for myself, all of my money is out of the stock market to this point because I don't have faith in that one. But I think that also the election is going to help us hold on to a strong real estate market just because it's going to keep rates low.
Yeah, I agree with that. Honestly, like I read a lot. I don't know if you ever heard John Molden. He's an economist, and he writes a newsletter, and the newsletter's fantastic. I mean, I've been reading it for like 10 years, and I'll be honest with you, when I started getting it in my email and stuff because a guy I worked with kept telling me about, oh, John Molden said this and John Molden said that, and he wrote a book called Bullseye Investing, and I'm like, I know a lot about real estate, but my level of expertise outside of the real estate industry is very small. I am very deep in as far as the real estate industry goes, but I'm not very wide outside of that. But John Molden keeps saying that interest rates have to go up for the real estate market to get better. He said that real estate interest rates have to go up so that it's more favorable for banks to lend to poor, basically weaker credit buyers. And he was talking about when our interest rates get to like 6-7% again, that these guys with like 580, 590 credit scores, it'll make sense for banks to take a risk for those people to buy again. So I feel like that's pretty interesting. I'm not saying I want to see that happen. I mean, the market's fantastic right now. I don't want it to get busier. You know what I mean? I'm probably the only agent that honestly says that. Man, in 2006 when the market was busier, you worked your butt off. I mean, some markets across the country, it's already like this, but you'd have a perfectly qualified buyer, and you'd have to tell them before you even went and looked at a house, you'd have to say, hey, guys, do you want to go ahead and write an offer now because it's not going to be available 2 hours from now. It's going to sell. Or if they did get a contract, if they went over asking price, got a contract accepted, the next problem would be it wouldn't appraise. So they would have to, a lot of first-time home buyers, they got the minimum down payment. They don't have a lot more than that. But one thing I've seen during this election that I think is, and I didn't intend to talk to you about the election, but one thing I've seen one thing I've seen in this election that I think is brilliant. It doesn't matter if you're a Trump fan or not a Trump fan, but his use of social media. And I feel like I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, and I feel like everything Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, Donald Trump's social media strategists must be listening to it and taking notes heavily. And
I agree. I think it's interesting too, especially through Facebook and as these candidates are learning, obviously, to come to basically go to your audience, go to the audience that you want. I mean, they have such targeted social media campaigns. Like you're saying, Trump is utilizing social media. I can tell you up here in Philly, in the Philly area, it's dominated right now by Hillary.
Really? That's interesting.
So it's really interesting to see the difference there.
Yeah, in South Carolina, it's dominated by Trump. And I guess it's the way they're targeting the market. I mean, but, historically, South Carolina's always went Republican, or it's went Republican for quite some time. So, I mean, he's won South Carolina. There's almost no need to spend money here, But I know Pennsylvania, you guys are in a battleground state. He needs to be spending money up there. But how important? I mean, we're seeing in this election. I mean, we'll know in another few days how if his if social media was really a factor in this this election or not. I mean, especially Facebook Live. But how important do you think social media is for real estate agents this coming year?
I think it's paramount for everyone to get out there. And Gary Vee you and I were talking about this before the call, but he relates everything back to, you need to be a media company or a PR company. I envision, and Haas Pratt does this too. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Haas Pratt, but he says that he's a marketing company that just happens to sell real estate.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself, and marketing can take so many gosh darn different forms, social media being one. And I think that's right now, a huge missed opportunity for a lot of agents. It's so easy and so cost effective. In fact, if you don't do any sponsored ads, obviously it's free. You just have to come up with a strategy and content. Yeah. So I think that's a huge missed opportunity for people. I mean, you can do things like, your Facebook Lives, and you can do a Facebook Live video testimonial at the closing table with your client.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
right.
Just put it out there.
Yeah.
So I think just going that route and obviously branching off into a couple different marketing pieces, but I mean, social media is absolutely paramount.
I know I interviewed David Woodson yesterday. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, super guy. I really like him and stuff. One of the things he talked about was he's going to close a significant number of properties this year. I can't remember the exact number, but it was $6-7 million gross. And I mean, he's got so many challenges to overcome. His mom and dad are both sick. He's having to live with them. He's had a disaster happen with a house he was building. It wasn't his fault, or it was basically a bad contractor, it sounded like. And then I mean, he's had so many challenges this year, and his primary lead generation source is really internet and social media.
Yeah.
And I mean, agents
he's doing right now too the 30 videos in 30 days. So
I've seen that.
And Halloween, but I mean, he does a really, really good job of just putting himself out there and actually asking for the business through the content also. It's awesome.
Yeah, I thought so too. I actually went back. We talked yesterday. He told me how much business he'd done, and I mean, he's in a little town in Indiana, and he told me how much business he'd done and stuff. And I went back watching some of his videos last night, stalking him out online, going, "Hey, can I do the same thing in my market? How much time would this take?" And which is really cool. So what about do you think review sites are going to play a bigger part in the next couple of years, like Zillow reviews, Yelp, things like that?
Yeah, Zillow is taking over the world. It's pretty much so, and I hate saying that, but I spoke with a couple agents that went to the premiere event in Vegas this past week, and man, some of the things that we're talking about and some of the features that Zillow is releasing or what they're preparing to do is huge. So if people aren't pushing Zillow reviews or like a SurveyMe or socialsurvey.com, those are the key ones. Social Survey is also a huge one too, and it links to all of your social media. So you're getting your social media out there as well. But getting those things done, but also sharing them after they're done. So I just posted one today because I had a closing in September, and she didn't fill out the testimonial until I just reminded her, but she just filled it out. I ended up posting it on Facebook, but I love sharing that stuff, and the feedback and the leads that you get just from that is huge. So the survey sites are going to be just a cornerstone in business moving forward, not just in Zillow, but I think for everything else.
Should agents, is there one you think agents should be focusing on, or you're telling your coaching clients, hey, focus on this one or focus on that one?
And not really. I mean, if you're going to focus on one, like I said, Zillow is going to end up taking on quite a bit more of the market share out there. But Zillow is a good one that's also free unless you do your advertisements through them. Again, anything that you can just collect surveys on your gosh darn website. It matters how you incorporate into the social media or into your presentations, into your consultations. That's really what the baseline of these social survey sites are. Is, hey, okay, cool. Let's get the survey done, but how are you going to then implement that information?
Yeah, I agree with that. What about, I got like one or two more questions, man. Then I know you got a lot of stuff to do, man. I don't want to keep you too long today, but how do you what do you think about? I know we talked about Gary Vaynerchuk becoming a media company. What do you think about podcasts? Like I've been doing this with real estate agents, and like the interview me and you're doing right now. And man, I've been putting it out there, and it goes out to real estate agents. I hope none of my clients ever hear any of these things, because every now and then I'll mention some unique stories, and there's no way they would not know that's them. It's pretty easy to pick it out if they heard the story. So man, I actually get a lot from it. I get a lot of referrals from agents from it, which is great, man. I get referrals from all over the Southeast, it seems like. Should agents be working on a podcast for the general public?
I think it's their database, not necessarily general public. I mean, general public is okay. I think that is sort of the spray and pray model. If you focus on database, though, use Happy Grasshopper, sign up with viral marketing, send a simple Facebook happy birthday, or do a weekly thing with your Facebook database. So I think video content is really the way that it's starting to trend to, and trend away from the podcast itself. I think a podcast is still a great tool, and it's much, much better than doing nothing. But if you're looking at targeting your database and mining for gold in your database and really making the best use out of it, I think it really is that video marketing, that monthly letter of the heart, a monthly evidence of success, really connecting 2 times a month, just sharing, hey, this is what my business did and this is what my family's doing, and just staying top of mind to actually have that referral base.
Yeah. Man, one other question. This kind of goes back to a little bit about what we talked about. I know you mentioned several times mining their database. There's so many CRMs out there and so many different things they can use to collect your database in. What features of a CRM? I mean, if you got one you could recommend, that's fantastic. But what features should agents be looking for? I mean, I know there's some I've subscribed to before that. And they had so many features and so many things, it kind of overwhelmed me, and it turned out I never used them, It's just a waste of money. What kind of features should agents be looking for in those CRMs?
I think, and you hit the nail right on the head. It's it's whatever features you're going to use. So it's similar to the lead generation model. Whatever you're going to do, then do it. If you're going to call expired, then that's what you're going to do, and stick to the gosh darn system and use it. Where the CRM, I mean, it's great to have a texting feature. It's great to have, and especially auto texting. I think for me, I use that quite a bit. I use auto email campaigns, auto triggers for follow-ups, and just action plans and scheduling out my system so that it's automated at that point. I don't have to think about it. I just input the lead into the system, and it tells me what I need to do. But I think just whatever system somebody chooses, I mean, and there's hundreds of different CRMs out there, but whatever system somebody chooses, just freaking use it. There's so many people that pay the money out there, and like you said, they just don't use it. They don't create the system or put it in their schedule to actually put the lead in the system and actually work it. And as we know, 80% of your appointments are going to come through follow-up. So why are you losing money? And it's just because they're not working the system. They're not using the CRM that they've chosen to use.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I'm guilty of it myself, man. I've subscribed to, I've done it a bunch of times, but I've done it with a bunch of CRMs that I've subscribed to, and then just for whatever reason did not use it. I'm trying to figure out what to use now. I need something with a little more features than what I currently got, and I've been doing like the 30-day trials and playing around with them and stuff like that. And just kind of figured out, hey, am I actually going to use this? Is this going to be worth it? Stuff like that. But man, so I really appreciate you being on the call with me today. If an agent wants to get in touch with you about coaching or mortgage services, or maybe they want to talk to you to get in touch with your wife about virtual assistant services, how do they do that?
Easiest way is just my cell phone. So my cell, and I'll give you my personal, but it's 203-257-5279 or Andy@approvedmortgagegroup.com.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate it. I'm gonna stop the recording right now.